It's as if education, in the way we see it, the human being has nothing inside them, so they need to be programmed by the process. So we come and put a series of information into the child. They grow up with that information, becoming capable of making use of this information. And in fact, they can't draw from within themselves all that's already there. I start from a remarkably straightforward principle that, in the exact same way that hidden deep inside the seed of a fruit, of an orange, for example, all its potential is already there. That the only thing it needs is to come from the inside out and express itself. The human being is a bit similar. They also have a seed within them, which we usually call the soul, which needs to flourish and express itself. And it's within this soul that we're going to find all the sources of wisdom and all the impulses of life. So Plato said that before awakening the soul, if we awakened the person's skills, they will confidently assert themselves in their professional skills and abilities in its training in a very simple way today. In its artificial intelligence, which is this mechanical intelligence of the ability to combine data and use traditions, culture as an element of support, of sustenance. It asserts itself so much in this that it forgets there's something inside that needs to bloom again. That needs to develop, that needs to express itself so that it can be fulfilled. It forgets that it has a soul. And although it can conquer everything a human being dreams of in terms of structures, space, wealth, it feels unfulfilled. And it feels like there's a void inside. And that the process of education was exactly to teach how to bring these elements out so it can express itself in such a way that it doesn't believe it came to do something. It believes it came to express what it is and everything it does. So it came to beautify things with this energy, which is the energy of its own soul, to give itself to the universe, to participate in life. This concept of soul differs from today's because since education abandoned the human being's spiritual component, it became focused almost exclusively on religion, which differs from the philosophical approach. The soul's the same, but the way of seeing it's different. So in the Greek world, they divided the human being into three parts. A first part which was the part they called the spiritual part, which was like that possibility that the human being has. When their soul awakens, to access ideas, to understand the laws that move life and the forces that move life. These ideas and these laws, they called the spiritual dimension. And the forces of life, this force that moves life, which we sometimes call love, okay, they called the human soul. The essence of human strength is love, it's goodness. That can be distorted when one loses contact with their own soul. So their motivations are no longer this force that comes from within. Similar to the motivations when we call an animal, we show some food and its motivation comes from the outside in. When they want to achieve something, they have motivation. When they don't want to achieve, they lose motivation. It happens that when they achieve everything, what is their motivation? Sometimes they despair and their motivation becomes, well, at least let's do good for society. But why don't we already start with this motivation from birth, from the beginning? Right? So this is the process we understand as education, awakening this motivation. That's what Plato used to say. First, awaken the soul. This is the natural motivation for goodness. So natural that we understand the human being this way. If you see a human being who has no goodness, you say, they're not human, depending on the degree of severity of the evil. You say, this is not a human being. Why do we have this in our imagination that the human being is the one who expresses a degree of goodness? The more kindness, the more human. So first awaken the human, then teach how to do things. So education would already have two important components to start with. Awaken the soul so that it accesses ideas and understands the laws. Because when laws are not understood, the laws of life are not understood, we begin to distort our way of thinking. Then also teach the child to express this in life. The technical parts, the operational part, the part of responsibility that they will have to do something for society. So it would have three components. The spiritual part, the understanding of ideas and laws. The motivational part, so that his motivation is his heart, his kindness, and not the attraction that things exert over him. and the practical part of doing things. Because if any of these fail, human problems begin. For example, if I only have kindness and the ability to do, you see, then I don't know how to understand what is just and what is not just. Unconsciously, I already start doing evil thinking that I'm doing good. I don't know what justice is. In the popular saying, there's a phrase that I like very much. It talks about people being nice. Hell is full of well intentioned people. It's not enough. They have to be well intentioned and know what is right and what is wrong. Because otherwise, with the best of intentions, we can do harm to a person. Have you seen when an accident happens and the person goes to help with the best of intentions and picks up in a bad way?
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
And with the best of intentions ends up causing a greater harm than the accident itself? This happens many times. Why? Because that understanding was missing of fundamental laws of life. And in general, when we talk about laws, we talk about universal gravitation, that there has to be a law so we can use gravity as an intelligent force, good for the human being. We have to understand the law to enter into harmony with gravity. So buildings don't fall and so on. But it turns out that there aren't only laws for the physical world. Understand? In other words, without kindness, aiming only for personal interest will generate a competitive system that attacks nature and human life, making life unbearable, which is exactly what's happening. I usually say that kindness and the ability to act without laws is disastrous. Laws, the capacity for understanding without kindness is catastrophic. And right now, we're leaning more toward the catastrophic than anything else. Why? Because look at what's happening with the current state of the entire planet Earth, with our world that we're creating for ourselves, a situation that sometimes might even be irreversible. Look at the divisions happening between families, between people. We're doing something wrong. We have to rethink these things. But also, just understanding the laws and just having kindness without the ability to act, we're useless. So we need to bring these three elements together. And when these two elements fail, there are already serious consequences that are already established in society. So it's no use working only with ideas and only with the correct motivational impulse of the human being, only with the human soul. We also need to heal some of the damage we've already done. And then you know this component very well, the amount of hunger, the amount of misery, the amount of people who don't have access to basic things within a society, the psychological despair of many people, okay? The ideological conflicts that are very serious today, pitting human beings against human beings, sometimes parents against children. Okay, so we need a general adjustment. That's what I think is the importance of this work of ours together, each in their own sphere, but also looking at education as these three important components. Okay, and our actions as well in these three fields, in the field of education and in the field of correct human motivations, in the field of the psyche, in the field of the human soul, and in the field of the construction part too, of doing things, of making things available to everyone as well. Okay, which is the work that all of you participate in to some degree in one of these components. But we need to come together. Confucius said that when good people stayed hidden in their own homes and didn't participate in social processes, they would face the worst kind of penalty a person can have. It would be led by the worst, and then we'd have to face the consequences of an unjust society. Okay, just as the people who do commit very terrible crimes within society have organized and are united, that's why they're strong. So the crime syndicates we know, Brazil is full of them, right? The good people have to unite too, because otherwise, with isolated strength, one doing a little thing and another doing another, disconnected from each other, we won't have the power for transformation. Hence, this need for us to be together and looking for joint and combined solutions with each other in such a way that one complements the other. That's why I think it's important to be working on this plan we're calling For the Good, because here there are only people who want to do good, but we need to do it together in an organized way to have more strength, more reach, so that one day we can say, well, let the bad guys organize, because the good guys are organized and they are much stronger. I believe that 99% of human beings are very good. They have this normal nature. But if the bad guys organize, it seems like they're bigger, there are more of them than the good guys. Today it gives that impression. You look at the newspaper, there's only bad things. The news media, only bad things. Are they winning? A very small group, just because it organized, is becoming stronger than all the human beings who are very good but don't organize. No, they are not at the service of the whole. They are not at the service of society. So this is the proposal that we are making. I'm very grateful that you also believe in this, and that you are willing for us to be together so that we can really join forces and manage to do something very significant for society. Not only what we are going to do, but the mentality that we are going to create. This is returning again to the human being believing in these things. A group might not make much of a difference, but what it propagates does, you see? What it convinces does. And the example can convince many people. So a small group doing it will attract a lot of attention. Everyone will look in the same direction and will end up discovering a hope within their own heart, and the collective process of participation begins, okay?